So, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Remain standing for the invocation. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father, as we approach your throne tonight, we're so thankful that we can. But Father, we do come tonight with heavy hearts. Father, we lost a fireman. And Lord, we're just asking that you be with the Varney family at this time, that you comfort them, give them grace and strength that only that you can give, draw them closer to you. And Father, we just pray for our firemen that are out there fighting these fires right now. Lord, we ask that you'd protect them, build a hedge around them, get them home safely. But Lord, may they be able to put the fires out with less damage. I do pray that you be with them, guide and direct them. I do pray for our police that are patrolling right now. Father, I'm asking that you protect them, get them home safely. We thank you for their service. We do pray, Lord, you watch over them. We thank you for their families as well. And Father, we do pray as we're in this meeting tonight, Lord, that everything that is said and done would be that to glorify thy name. But Father, we seek your face, we seek your wisdom, Lord, as we discuss the affairs of our city and how to direct it. And Father, help each council member that's here. Father, we thank you for their service. We pray that you'd have your hand upon them. And Lord, give them wisdom as they help and guide and direct the city. Father, we ask these things in your name, for we do love you so much. In Jesus' name, amen.
Please be seated. Folks, please take a moment to silence your cell phones. We constantly have them going off during the meetings, so please take a minute to silence those phones. As you'll see, the mayor is not here. He's busy helping fuel planes for the Ferguson fire, and Ms. Vieira is ill. Roll call, please.
Mr. Creighton?
Here.
Raymond?
Here.
Vieira is out. Vineyard?
Here.
Price is absent. Mayor or City Attorney report out from closed session.
Vice Mayor, Council, by a 3-0 vote, the Council authorized the settlement of a workers' compensation claim, as well as rejected the claim of Alejandro Sandoval. That's it. No other reportable action was taken.
We move, there's actually no subsequent need items that have been brought to our attention, and so...
Councilman Raymond.
Mayor Pro Tem, for item 10, for subsequent need, with the discovery of option number 3 for the discussion regarding the draft argument in favor of the ballot measure relating to a business tax on cannabis business, I would like to have option 3 allowed to be discussed here tonight. I know copies were printed and placed in the back as well.
Do we have a motion, please? You have a second?
Second.
Call for the question.
Vineyard?
Yes.
Creighton?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Motion passes.
So for the record, item number 3, or option number 3 will now be considered as part of item number 10, and copies of that item are in the back for public review.
Move to approval of agenda as posted or amended.
Is there anyone on the council that would like to make any changes to the agenda as posted?
Motion to approve.
Before you do that, we do need to remove, under ceremonial matters, the 4th of July activities, presentations to the 4th of July Committee, the Police Activities League, and the Police Volunteers, as well as the 4th of July Committee member retirement due to those folks not being able to make it tonight, and move that to the August 13th meeting.
Motion to approve with the amendment.
Second.
Call for the question.
Creighton?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Vineyard?
Yes.
Motion passes. Ceremonial matters. Police Volunteer of the Year.
Come forth, Mr. Gordon Wilkinson. Actually, I'm going to handle this in two ways. Could I also have Mr. Don Martin up here? Because you're going to have to come up here eventually anyway. I'll get that. Just a minute. So you folks know, these two gentlemen have been with us since 1995. Don, since he was born into the Atwater Volunteer Program on January 9th, 2015, and Gordon was born on March 9th, 2015. Some of the tasks we do as volunteers, there's about 29 of them. I'm not going to read them all to you. But we do traffic control, a lot of that. Run paperwork to the Merced DOJ, or to the DOJ, the DAs, the court systems. They do garage sale checks, house checks. When you're on vacation, you need a house check, come in, fill the paperwork out. We'll do that. These two gentlemen went through training, so now they can write tickets for handicap violations, parking incorrectly, and notice of violations on boats and trailers and cars. They help set out the rail trailers. We used to do water violations, but that's going away now. Some of you will be glad to hear. We respond to incidents such as happened last night with the fire out in Fruitland, where we do traffic control, assist on getting people out of their houses, etc. And these two gentlemen are doing it for some time. Each volunteer, when they come to work for us, we ask them to put in 20 hours, a minimum, a month. These gentlemen have gone far and beyond that. The volunteers have been in existence since 1995. That's about 23 and a half years, at least the records I have. They've put in over 90,000, almost 91,000 hours of community service. That's approximately 3,865 hours a year of free service to the city. Luckily, the police department gets credit for that. So they get some money back from the government. And they work hand in hand with the police department. And I think the police department enjoys their company just as much as the volunteers enjoy the police department's company. Now, the volunteers don't get paid. In other words, that's why they're volunteers. Police department gives them cars, gives them flashlights, gas to run around this city. They don't chase cars. They don't chase bad people. They don't carry guns. But the volunteers pay for their own uniforms, pay for their own water, their own meals, and everything else. They do what's required of them. There's a little thing at the bottom of their duties, other duties as required. They're trained in first aid, CPR. So if you're hurt and you need to flag them down, you can flag them down. They're the next best thing to dial 911 if you forget to dial 911. So if you're running around screaming for help and you flag them down, they can get you the help they need, that you need. These two gentlemen, since they started working for us, Gordon, put in, as of June 30th, 5,168 tasks. Now, a task is something you do, one of those 28 things. And if you do it once, that's counted as towards that task. You may do a task 3 or 4 times a day. He's put in an estimate of about 80 hours a month, far and beyond the 20 hours. He's put in 1,704 hours in this time, his career. Now, Gordon, anytime I call him, he's there. He spent 5 or 6 hours out the other day on a truck that was disabled. Didn't call, anybody didn't complain, out there in the heat. He's always been there, he's always done what I've asked him to do, and that's why I am presenting Gordon the Volunteer of the Year Award, which I should have done this a long time ago to both these gentlemen. For the City of Atwater, Certificate of Recognition award to Gordon Wilkerson, Police Volunteer of the Year, for his compliments, devotion to duty, and service to the public. Now, you'll have to give this back to us, because we have to get Councilwoman Vieira's signature on it, but congratulations. That's the first time I ever seen Gordon, this man, your ear off, and then turn you around and talk your other ear off. Don, come on over for a minute. As I said, Don came with us in January 1995. He, like Gordon, anytime you call, he goes. Don put in 1,969 tasks through his career with us. Put in 1,919 hours. In July, I estimate he's going to have another 30 tasks and probably another 40 hours. Unfortunately, Don, shoulders bothering him a little bit. The one thing I remember of Don is almost every time I saw him, he wanted a pay raise. I said, sure, as soon as I get one, I'll give it to you. I think one day I handed him a penny and said, here, you can have mine. Don has been a really inspiration to me. He has a lot of levity, always keeps me laughing. He's going to be greatly missed. Don has come up with a lot of great ideas. Don and Gordon both have through their careers. A lot of the things we do now is because these two pushed me to make changes. In fact, all my volunteers pushed me to make changes for the better. That's why we're as good a group. I'm going to go do a new career. I believe he's going to become a chaplain somewhere. His ministry somewhere. And I think he's going to do a fantastic job where he's going to be missed. And I hope he comes back and constantly pesters us. So, but let me get you something, Don. I have two things for you. First, a certificate, and you're going to have to bring this back to us too. So you have to come back and buzz us. So this is a certificate of recognition for your retirement. But you never retire, and I know you won't ever. Anyway, for Don Martin, police volunteer, for his dedication and service to the City of Atwater, the Atwater Police Department, and the Atwater Volunteers and Police Service, otherwise known as AFIPS. Before I hand this other item I'm going to give to Don, I do want to recognize the other volunteers that are here that make up the core of what we have left. And we're going to be recruiting them. Miss Joan Fall, will you please stand up? Manuel Pinto, please stand up. And Greg Olzak, please stand up. These are your Atwater volunteers. What I have for you, Don, is a paperweight, just a little one, courtesy of the police department. Don Martin, in appreciation for your invaluable service to the Atwater Volunteers and Police Service, AFIPS, the Atwater Police Department, and the City of Atwater from 1/19/2015 to 7/31/2018. So you still owe me for a few more days of work. Chief, is there anything you would like to say to these gentlemen?
Gentlemen, thank you so much. The work that you do helps us be more efficient. You're truly a force multiplier. Thank you very much.
Now, do you have anything to say, sir?
I'm really indebted to the police department because I saw my wife taken away because she had severe dementia, and it broke my heart. I was looking at 4 walls, actually 2,000 square foot house, but more walls than that. And it was driving me crazy. I opened my water bill one evening, and there it was, an ad for asking for volunteers. And I was selected. Not sure why, but I was anyhow. So, but it really took me through a bad time, and I do appreciate that. And I made some good friends, even Greg, and no, some fantastic folks, and I do appreciate that so much, and I'll miss it. And I think I'm coming back as a chaplain with the Atwater Police Department. So anyhow.
Your bill will be in the mail. Again, these are going to be, Don, it's going to be hard to fill in behind. We're looking for volunteers. Gordon, as usual, and all the volunteers, I appreciate everything you do, everything you always do. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Congratulations. Don, would you like the box for that? Thank you.
Our next item is comments from the public. At this time, any person may comment on any item which is not on the agenda. Please state your name and address for the record. Action will not be taken on any item that is not on the agenda. If it requires action, it will be referred to staff and/or placed on a future agenda. To comment on an item that is on the agenda, please wait until the item is read for consideration. Please limit comments to a maximum of 5 minutes. Chief?
I'm assuming this is on. I'm going to make the unusual step of commenting at public comments as the chief of police.
Chief, would you like this so you can face them?
Thank you.
And shut the clock off, would you please? I'm not going to hold the chief to 5 minutes.
It's unusual for the chief to come up during public comments, but, and let me be appropriate here, Drew Bessinger, 750 Bellevue Road, Atwater, California. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm taking the highly unusual step of talking to the public at public comments about something that's not on the agenda tonight, and I need to tell you why it's not on the agenda. As you know that we had a murder in our community on July 2nd, and your police department did an outstanding job investigating this crime, identifying the violent criminal who committed it, and arresting him. Tonight, I planned on bringing 3 officers and a district attorney's office analyst here tonight to give them letters of commendation publicly. It was put on the agenda. The officers called me and they asked me to remove it. And when I asked them why, they said they don't feel welcome here by some of the citizens. They've watched some of the meetings on TV. They see that old personnel actions are brought up that are years old. They see that traffic accidents where the officer was found not at fault are rebranded where they are at fault. And it's unfortunate, and I don't want to offend anybody, but this is what I'm being told. My own experience. Even before I took this job, I was receiving phone calls and emails about who I'm affiliated with, who I know, which council members do I know personally. There's even a rumor, apparently, from what I was told, that I play in the mayor's band, and that somehow I'm connected with the series group, whichever that is. It's a little confusing. I'll be honest with you. Folks, just for the record, I know no one associated with the city of Atwater. I didn't meet anybody before I took this job. I have no allegiances or alliances with anybody. I've been sent here, I've been asked to come here because I was approached to come and stabilize the department, get things back in line, and hopefully improve the service of the agency. I don't know Chief Joseph. I have absolutely no feeling one way or another if he comes, if he stays. I have no concern there. My concern is for the men and women of the police department. And so what I'm asking you to do is I'm going to ask this to be put on the agenda for the next meeting where publicly these officers come in and get their presentations. They did an excellent job. I want them to feel welcome. I know that you do too. But here's what I'm going to ask you to do. Whenever my job here is done, and I don't know, there's only 3 council members here tonight, maybe I'll get voted out tonight. Before I leave, I will stand here in front of you like I am tonight. And if I have not done a good job with your police department, if we have not made strides in your community to make it safer, take me to the woodshed. I will stand here, I will take it. My wife, my kids, and my grandchildren are off limits, but everything else is good to go. I will sit here and I will listen to whatever you have to say to me with my mouth shut. Just please, make my guys feel welcome. Make them feel that they're appreciated. I know most of you feel that, but perception is reality. There is a perception by some officers that they would be disparaged if they walked in here, and that is a shame. I don't know that to be true, but this is their reality. So if you could do that for me, I would really appreciate it. Help me help you make this a better community. That's all I have. I'll be in the back of the room if you want to yell at me later. I hope I didn't anger anybody, but I felt like I had to say this.
Thank you, Chief.
Start again.
I agree with everything he said. Being a lawman for 40 years, you know, the guys are out there they're doing a tough job. And I take my hat off anybody who wants to go out there and do it.
State your name, please, sir.
And it's Mike Akers at 1199 Atwater Boulevard. I now rent office space in this town. So that'll take that little problem off the agenda for people. It's going to be short and sweet. Here we go again. So we're 7 months down the road. Chief Joseph is still on leave. There's been 3 or 4 investigations into this situation. It's now difficult to keep up with the special investigations. How many? Churchill White, my apologies, Mr. City Attorney, if I'm confusing you with Robert Mueller. This seems like this is like the special counsel going on with the President of the United States. We're on our 2nd interim chief of police, and it appears that there's like no end in sight. Hopefully there is. Ms. Waterman has stated in the past that she had no idea in the beginning why Mr. Joseph was put on leave. She probably knows why now, or she's given information that what they want her to know. There's a lot of similarities between the chief of police in Dixon, Chief Cox, and what's going on with Chief Joseph. Chief Cox was fired. It was a very complex case. I agree, because I've read the entire thing. But eventually, Chief Cox was reinstated and eventually retired 2 months later. Chief Cox stated that one of the council members called me the following day and was apologizing, saying, you were wronged. We were not aware of all the facts. We were all duped by the city attorney who was in charge of the case. And who was that city attorney at the time? Mr. Doug White. I'm sure he knows that because he was there. Information has come to light that Doug White and Deborah Hinshaw Vieira told staff members that they didn't have anything on Chief Joseph, but if you bring him back, 5 officers will quit. And the officers were Echeverria, Sargents and Smothers, and Mann and Schroeder. Right after that, Mr. Bart DeWork departed under interesting circumstances. But we have investigation, and after investigation, everyone is either with Churchill White or affiliate of theirs. I find it very interesting. It appears that the only reason that Mr. Joseph is kept on admin leave is monetarily. The meter is running and the citizens of Atwater are footing the bill. Remember, trying to take advantage of the ignorance of the citizens of the city of Atwater and getting what you can before the city goes bankrupt. So how's that ignorance working now, sir? Chief Joseph had a police regulation regarding body artwork. For us old folks, that's tattoo. I guess that's a new generational thing. I talked to the chief about this earlier, and I told him I wasn't trying to poke at him. I'm just bringing up a point. Body work, we're police officers are an intimidating factor in its own right when we come into contact with people. When officers come up, they're covered in ink, tattoos, as old folks call them. It looks unprofessional, and the appearance is, and I've got this from several people that I talk to that I know in this town, and I was raised in this town since 1962, was it looks like Atwater PD is recruiting officers out of the state penitentiary. It doesn't look good. So I would suggest that, have the chief reinstitute the no visible body art policy. It's very simple to do. Just cover it up and you go to work. I believe the sheriff's office has that policy. I've seen a lot of officers I know that have a lot of body art from other agencies, and they're covered up when they're working. I believe in professionalism. I believe in how it looks, our presence, and how we appear, clean uniforms, looking sharp every day. Because who do we represent? Atwater peace officers represent the citizens of this city. They represent you guys. They also represent, I don't live in a city that's been established by Mr. Creighton, but I live here, I shop here, and I've been here all my life. I went to Elmerwood, Mitchell, and Atwater High. So I pretty much got a lot invested in this town. So let's let the cops look good, and maybe they'll start feeling better about themselves. And maybe everybody won't go beating up on them. So, thank you.
Good evening, Linda Dash, Atwater, California. I do live in the city limits. Before the clock starts ticking, I just received a text from a gentleman by the name of Dave Honey. I think you all know Dave. He is on the school board, he was a teacher, he was a principal. He sent me a text, and I want you all to hear this. Did you see the fire someone started in my neighborhood? We are lucky the house did not burn. We have over $30,000 in damage. The firefighters were great. How could I thank them? They are back today checking hot spots. Dave. So I just wanted you all to know that Mr. Honey loves you guys, so, and I wanted to read it. I'm here again because of my favorite thing, finance. I am very supportive of your PD, and that's why I'm up here every council meeting, because I can see money flying out the window when it should be going to public safety, the cops, okay? Because, I mean, we are down cops from way back when. All right, I have a question. The City of Atwater has paid $4,453.91 for Unicorn Holistic. And I've got to know, Mr. White, what is Unicorn Holistic? It was supposed to have an office located at 221 Business Park, Atwater. It's my understanding that whomever was involved with Unicorn Holistic has moved from that address to California City, has taken all the equipment. Now, who's going to reimburse the City of Atwater for this amount, since we're charged $350 an hour, which I think is supposed to be reimbursable? That's my question number one. And my other question is Attorney Arthur Hodge going to reimburse us, since he's a registered agent of Unicorn Holistic? By the way, that's dope, okay? City of Atwater has paid $23,416 for Churchwell White to discuss marijuana from 1 March 2018 to 30 April 2018. This discussion was inter-office, primarily between one attorney to another attorney, and with a couple of calls to the City of Atwater staff. Since Churchwell White contracts states that $350 per hour is reimbursable fees, then who's going to reimburse the City of Atwater for this marijuana discussion? City of Atwater has paid $105 for Debout, DA, that's marijuana again. We were charged $350 per hour, which should be reimbursable. What is it? And why are we paying all this stuff for these outside folks, is what I'd like to know. And this is a question to the finance director or the city manager. How many vendors or contractual employees present their invoices and request that a check be cut before it's been approved by the city council? And my other question is, check number 73575, in the amount of $3,000 to Merced County Office of what? Law and Associates Investigations, only $350, but I'm thinking that's got to be another investigator or another attorney. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members, community members, and guests. I'd like to first thank Captain Wilkinson and Mr. Martin for their service. Thank you very much. Chief White, thank you for your firefighters getting out there and taking care of business yesterday. Appreciate that.
Your name, please.
Yes, please state your name for the record.
Gabriel Santos, 3391 Shoreline Drive, Atwater, California. I also have various other properties throughout the city of Atwater. My main purpose for being here today is to complain. I was here last year on September 25th, 2017, to complain about certain incidents that have taken place in Emmanuel Barrows Park. I also followed up with an email regarding specifics and photos to each of you on November 14th, 2017. Here's the issues. I'll keep it short and sweet, specifically within Emmanuel Barrows Park. I've lived in the city for over nearly 20 years. I've never witnessed Emmanuel Barrows Park look in such horrible shape. It's embarrassing. Each of us should be embarrassed. I'm embarrassed. I live across the street. The lawn is dead. The 24 city-owned trees are dying. They're overgrown. They haven't been trimmed in over 10 years. The branches are falling daily, up to 5 inches in diameter. Liability just waiting to happen. Yesterday I went for a walk. I witnessed over 5 trees that have numerous branches falling. Again, a city liability. It's been brought to your attention before, specifically to Mr. Shaw, who's not here today. I also mentioned to Mr. Shaw various sprinklers that were broken. Took over 30 days to repair those sprinklers. It's embarrassing, unacceptable. I spoke to him specifically and provided specific information on the exact location of those sprinklers. I don't even want to calculate how much water was wasted. I would have been cited for that. Large piles of leaves. I haven't seen a city sweeper in the area in that community of Schaefer Lakes East in over a month. Posed a significant fire threat during 4th of July. Thankfully, we didn't have any fires, but had we, Mr. Shaw was well aware of that also. All of these issues pose a liability to the city of Atwater and put us at risk. Some other issues, last year, the city moved 5 of the city park benches. At that point, the city should have brought those benches up to ADA compliance. None of those were brought up to ADA compliance. Each of those 5 benches were repaved with a concrete foundation. None of those benches were brought up to ADA compliance. Again, another liability to the city of Atwater. Any arborist would recommend that a tree get pruned annually, just for your own records. I don't have a single tree on my property. However, I've had to clean up large piles of leaves for the entire year. It's almost year-round now because they're overgrown. Why is it a problem? It poses dark spots in the park. The park has become a common area for all kinds of interesting activity, such as teenagers and adults having sex in open public during daytime and nighttime evening hours. And if you need to see videos or photos of this, I will gladly provide those to you. All of these incidents are reported to the Atwater Police Department. Every single one of them. The park is clearly posted as it closes at 10 o'clock at night. It's not enforced. It would be nice if that could be enforced. There's clearly no smoking signs in the park constantly. While I'm out enjoying my pool and family time, I'm having to smell the drift of marijuana to my house. I go out, talk to the individuals. Again, it's reported to Atwater Police Department. Clearly posted no smoking. These are all citable offenses. Speeding in the area, clearly posted. It continues to be a problem. School starts in August. Those benches are all common places for students to meet to be picked up from school. Consumption of alcohol, glass, broken containers, all throughout the park. Last week, I picked up my last used condom. I refuse to pick up any more used condoms in the park before my son, who's 7 years old, picks them up. From here on, I will be reporting those directly to the Public Health Department, have them come out and pick them up. These are all citable offenses, and I would appreciate the assistance of Atwater Police Department. Chief, I know you're new to the city. I spent an hour in your waiting room today to talk to your dispatch supervisor. Never got to talk to anybody. My name is Gabriel Santos, and I'll also be here after the meeting. I'm tired of taking my child for a walk in the park and having to encounter these types of situations. I'd appreciate if the park can be maintained and these types of situations be addressed. The city is liable, and you have a statutory responsibility. And Mr. White, you can look those up. They're not ADA compliant, and I will gladly speak to anybody that brings any of those cases forward towards the city. Thank you.
Eric Lee, 1199 Atwater Boulevard. I really appreciate what this gentleman said, because I've encountered the same thing in downtown Atwater with the vagrant homeless situation, the defecation in the gardens, the urinating on the walls and the alleyway between Pasadores and the parking lot and down towards Kentucky Fried Chicken. It's a real problem, and I don't want this to be a political football tossed around by politicians running for office. This needs to be acted on. We managed to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in this city on investigation after investigation after investigation. So far, what does it yield? Nothing. We need to start looking at taking care of our Public Works and our Parks and Rec Department. Public Works has been cut to the bone, but Recreation and Parks has been cut to the marrow. The parks in this town are atrocious. People who don't have a lot of money are going to recreate in city parks. It's not fair to them to give them dead grass, falling limbs, the other things that this gentleman mentioned, which are there, for their children to have to see, to run through, or to even play with. This is a bad situation in Atwater, and I think we all get it. We all drive down Atwater Boulevard coming from Livingston or coming from Merced. We all see the entrances and what the town's looking like. This is becoming unacceptable to me. And as a citizen and a taxpayer, as I see in this audience, it's incumbent upon this council to quit wasting money, chasing red herrings, bringing in consultants that you don't listen to, and start spending our tax dollars on improving the quality of life in this city. We've got to start doing it now. If legalized pot is our salvation, or will it just be one more pipe dream up in smoke? I keep hearing that's where the dollars are going to come from. Are we supposed to hope they do? I guess we should. But the fact of the matter is that we can put all the boots on the ground. It's not going to make a bit of difference if the city keeps deteriorating, because we don't have enough money to put that many boots on the ground to correct the problems we're going to see. And I'll address the chief's comments on his officers. We've supported the officers in Atwater for years. We've barbecued for them. We've cooked meals for them. We've taken care of them. We appreciate the police officers in this town, and we support them every which way we can. One of the things that I suggested 2 years ago is that we start looking at secretary-determined swaps in Kelso and stop the crap that's going on over there. That's where the murders are. That's where your red dots are. You know it. You're in Clovis, and I know what kind of city Clovis is, and I know how you take care of that town. And that's what we need to start doing, and cracking down on the absentee landlords, or the landlords that aren't absentee, that aren't doing the job of taking care of their complexes. There was a time when a complex over there was completely run by, I believe it was Norteños or Sereños, one of the two, red or blue, I can't remember which one. They ran the complex. They were the ones that collected the rents. They were the ones that kept out the other gang members. When they came in, they were the ones that shot them. But it's time for us to get off of this stuff we're doing with all the investigations, all the other things that are going on, make a decision. Now, if we're going to put this off until after the election, or are we going to do this before the election, But right now, we have 2 police chiefs in Atwater. We can't continue to do that. It's important that we start taking care of the city. You're using my money, you're using their money. Let's start putting it to good use and quit wasting it. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, can I talk about one thing really quickly, if that's okay?
Let's hold, can you hold the notes to the end, please? We want to get through the comments.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Richard Johnson, 1675 Directley Avenue, Atwater. Okay, first thing I would like to say is that 2 council meetings ago, Lori Waterman said the investigation into Sammy Joseph was ongoing. Okay, but after 6 months of him being gone already, not one detective has talked to me or my wife. And we're the victims of a lot of major crimes by him, committed by him. And I was just wondering why wouldn't they talk to the victims that have the evidence, that have all the documentation? Why, I just don't understand. And I just want to make that a point that here it is 7 months, nearly 7 months later, and he's gone for a reason. And how come nobody's to get him fired for what he did, to just that one act alone, when he did that to me outside the council meetings, he should be brought up on charges for that. Absolutely brought up on charges. But I doubt if he will be, because, it's just how it is here. Okay. There's an intersection at Drakely Avenue and Sierra Vista that has no stop sign or no yield sign in either direction. It's been like that for a while, from what the officers told me at the scene. And that's very dangerous for drivers and residents, from what I came to find out Friday afternoon when I was involved in an accident right there. It totaled out my car as another vehicle, a Dodge van, crossed at the same time I was going through. And neither one of us had a stop sign or a yield sign or a warning sign saying there's no stop sign. So yeah, it totaled my car out. It pretty much totaled her van out. And I just got the little Honda. It was before I even could get insurance on it. And I just want to know if I would like to know what you or the city officials, as our city officials, are going to do about that dangerous intersection. Or if you're going to do anything at all. Okay. An officer at the scene and the family on the corner where I was sitting, they had me sit down there on the property. They were telling me that there's been a lot of accidents at that location, and recall one accident where the pickup, after the accident, plowed through their front yard, and where their 3 little granddaughters stay. And I see them all the time out there playing. And it's very dangerous for those girls. They could have easily been hit or killed. And it'd be a damn shame if something like that was to happen. And luckily, they was playing in the backyard of on that day that the truck went through there. Okay. There really needs to be stop signs put at either one direction or the other direction, or yield signs, one or the other, like I said. Either one would make a huge difference, I believe. And one of the officers was telling me that he's been telling the city for years that it's very dangerous and it really needs to be fixed. He's been saying it for 4 years, something like 4 years, and nothing's been done yet. So please put a stop sign, at least make it safe for those kids that are out there. Thank you.
Good evening, Frank Johnson, Modesto, California. At the last meeting, an individual got up during public comment and attempted to disparage officers of police department with outright falsehoods, half-truths, rumors, and smoking mirrors. The comments were directed only at officers he perceived as being against ex-Chief Joseph. As they say, people in glass houses should not throw stones. The speaker himself was fired from his last job for making racist comments in the workplace. Being Hispanic is no excuse for racism. Now that Pandora's box is open, let's talk about the few officers that support ex-Chief Joseph. I count only 5 supporters in the whole department, and they have all been bought off with promises of Easy Street if Joseph returns. First, you have SRO, who is the son of a former councilwoman. He was fired from the Merced PD for time card fraud placed on the Brady list by the DA. The councilwoman convinced Frank Pedro to hire this disgraced officer, and Pedro pulled a favor with the DA Morris to get him off the Brady list. Will the new DA be taking a second look at this scam along with the mayor's shooting spree? We think so. Then you have a sergeant, the only sergeant that supports Joseph, 1 out of 5. We are informed that this sergeant is by far the most despised APD officer on the force. It is commonly believed that he would even throw his own mother under the bus if that's what it took to get ahead.
Mr. Johnson, I understand it's public comment, but please don't attack the officers.
I have not mentioned the name.
Please.
I have not mentioned the name, and this is public comment.
I understand. Please just respect the people of the city and the officers, if you would, please, sir. I'm just asking you to.
So are you telling me that I
I
can't
am
go
not
any
telling
further?
you, I'm asking you, sir, to please respect the police department and the people of the city.
So you're saying that I cannot go any further because everything I have...
I am asking you to please respect in your comments the people of the city.
Well, you
And be
didn't
careful
ask
how
the
you
gentleman,
word.
well, the gentleman last week that came
Sir.
up and went against the
Sir.
officers of almost hitting a pedestrian or hit a pedestrian and the drinking and
Mr.
so
Johnson,
on, no one stopped him.
I was not here, I was not the one in charge last meeting, was I? I am simply asking you to please choose your words more carefully in attacking the police
This is not an
department.
attack. These are facts. This is all public record. It's public record, or I wouldn't have been able to get the information.
I'm asking you, please, to be cognizant of your words to the
Well, I'm
public.
taking, all right, well,
Mr. Johnson, you may finish your comments. There's no problem with that because freedom of speech.
Well, I've
Let me just
already-
read something, please. Civility is expected from members of the public during the meeting. For more efficient use of time, disruptive behavior will not be tolerated. While you may not agree with what an individual is saying, please treat everyone with courtesy and respect. Please finish your comments.
We'll make sure you get extra time, sir.
It is commonly believed that he would throw his own mother under the bus, if that's what it took to get ahead. Also, he caused the city to pay $60,000 settlement after he was sued by an officer for discrimination and bullying. Many others have complained about him also. We are informed that Joseph had promised him the Corvenant administrative sergeant position if Joseph successfully returns to chief position. Then you have a former detective who is now back on patrol. Joseph promised him detective status until retirement. This officer was arrested by the Modesto PD for domestic violence, yet he still works here. We are informed he has a small man complex due to being vertically challenged. He compensates by bodybuilding. Although it is commonly believed he uses illegal steroids, the Joseph Pedro regime has failed and refused to investigate these allegations. Lastly, you have two more SROs, one of whom recently had to return to patrol after he failed miserably on an oral board. Both of these officers were promised easy school officer positions until retirement by Joseph. They are both out of shape and lazy. When they worked patrol previously, they would always work graveyards because it was the slowest shift with the least paperwork. Then they would park behind a building somewhere, watch movies until they got tired, and then they would go to sleep, often for many hours. Although Joseph and Pedro were aware of this, they failed and refused to investigate. There you have it. That's the Joseph Gang of Five. We trust that the new interim chief and city manager will conduct a proper investigation into these miscreants. Like I said, people in glass houses should not throw stones. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I'm going to remind everyone in here, I expect courtesy and respect from every speaker. Doesn't matter who you are or when you speak. Respect, Mr. Johnson. I wasn't talking to you, sir. I wasn't talking to you, sir. Your time is up. Thank you. I respect from everyone that comes up. This isn't a slam. I don't like when people come up and slam. I don't care who you are, innuendos or anything else. I run this meeting tonight, and I demand respect from everyone in this room, and not interruptions or outbursts, because you will be removed. And that is the final word. You understand?
Yes, sir.
Remove him. Thank you. Officer, remove Mr. Johnson, please. I am not going to have interruptions in this meeting. Remove Mr. Johnson, please. I will not have outbursts.
Motion for a recess for 5 minutes.
No, Mr. Kowalski, let the speaker finish first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members, Chief. I like your officers. They're doing a good job. Anyway, Ms. Waterman, I saw this organizational chart. I think you did. Did you put this together? Pretty nice chart, good color. But what's missing on it? What's missing on it is, where's the citizens of Atwater? They're above the city council. The council is accountable to the citizens, and they should be on this chart. And this council needs to be reminded of it. You know, you should put one of these on every desk up there so they're reminded they're working for the people of Atwater. Mr. White, last council meeting, I asked Mr. Helen a question he was unable to answer. I suggested to him to have a pencil write down several questions to give to you to answer those questions on today's council meeting. Were you given those questions?
I don't know what questions you're referring to, so I don't know the answer yet.
Okay. Okay, the following day, I sent the city clerk a public request email containing the same questions. Did you receive that email?
Yep. So, Mr. Pawlowski, we're not going to have a conference back and forth. I understand.
I did receive the...
You can talk, wait a minute. You can talk to him afterwards, please.
Okay,
Ask your
I'll read all the
questions.
questions.
He can talk to you afterwards.
Again, I just, to save time, I was
I
wondering
understand.
if he received
I understand, but we don't want to start a conference back and forth.
So, Ms. White, I'll ask you these again. Can you share with us how much you have been paid by the city on just the Sammy Joseph issue only? How many cities have you been a city attorney for or the interim for? How many of those cities have you wrote a marijuana ordinance for? Why did you leave those cities? How many marijuana dispensaries that you wrote a city ordinance for do you or your firm now represent? Last council meeting, I brought this up. I thought at the end of public comment, our questions are answered. The attorney said it was too hot, so he wouldn't answer the questions. So at what time or when do we ever get our questions answered? We, the people of Atwater, we deserve answers. I made in a statement in a prior council meeting saying there was a $7.5 million unfunded retirement liability. And I was somewhat true on that. Other post-employee benefits have that $7.5 million unfunded liability. But the liability, besides that, $30 million for retirement. And I don't know if this council's aware of that. $30 million we owe PERS. Well, actually, $37.5 million. And what are you guys doing about it? The city is never going to move forward until the council, you become honest to the people out here and start being open with the citizens. Not only the financial problems we have. Measure H. We had a discussion when I first came to these meetings about Measure H, how, yes, we need to be transparent to the people out here. Let the people know that we have 7 less officers now than we had in 2016. That Measure H is paying for over 1/3 of our budget, of the police department's budget. We're not enhancing the police department what Measure H was for, what the people voted for, to enhance the department, not just to go backwards. And that's where we're going now. So I hope as you're campaigning up there, you start being honest with the people and let the people know what we're up against. Thank you.
Sir, please state your name for the record.
I'm sorry. Keith Plowski from Atwater.
Thank you.
We'll take a 5-minute break. Return at 7:10. bring the meeting back to order. Before we start the public comments section again, the point I'm trying to make here, folks, and if I offended anyone, I apologize, but we need to bring courtesy and respect and civility back to this council, something we've lacked for a long time. As long as I'm chair, I'm going to demand that from everyone, staff, public, council. So please, let's be civil, let's respect each other, let's have people have their say, but use your words cautiously. And so we can get on with business. Everybody keeps talking about how you want to make this city better. We're not doing that. So let's get back to the respectful side. So we'll continue the public comments. Anyone else has anything to say?
Jim Balestra, Avenue 1, Atwater. I just want to bring up, last time I was here, I was told by Councilor White here that he couldn't tell me if the investigation on the chief was going on, and he said he couldn't, it's a personnel issue. But Lori Waterman had no problem telling me that, so I don't know. Another thing that's been going on for probably 6 months, and it's a 20-man department, and sooner or later you have to come to a conclusion. You can't just keep kicking the can down the road. And I think Lori, it's apparently up to her one way or the other. And is the investigation over? Is it still going on?
Just to go to the Vice Mayor's point, I'd be happy to answer some of these questions once all public comment has concluded.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
He'll answer. Well, I don't want to get into a whole long session of answering questions, but we'll try to answer some of these questions at the end of public comment.
Oh, okay.
We'll make a point of it this time.
Yeah, and then we got 2 police chiefs now. I've never heard of that. Intern police chief is usually when you don't have a police chief, and they come in and they're intern until you hire another one. But we have 2 police chiefs. One's home on full pay, and the other one's on intern. And I admire the new chief for coming in and giving the talk. He doesn't know anybody here, doesn't know anybody in Ceres, but somebody asked him to come to this for the job, and I just wonder who it was. And then I understand he's a city councilman in Clovis, and their meetings are on the same nights as ours, first, second, and third Monday at 6 o'clock. And I just wondered if he's going to attend those or if he's going to be here. That's all I got. Well, I'm sure you'll answer my questions.
Danny Hernandez in Atwater, California here. One thing I want to say is the city council in Clovis, they meet the week before.
Mr. Hernandez, please speak in the mic.
I'm just answering his question because I was just down there.
Please speak in the mic.
At any rate, I'm going to curtail some of my comment for tonight because of the absence of some of these council people here that are gone here this week. So I'm going to start out with this. A couple of months ago, I communicated with you, Mr. Vineyard, about the building over there on Windway across from the funeral home, having to do with students at Atwater High School, moving to that building and doing all kinds of whatever the hell it is they do. And it was suggested that some of the people at the high school, the SROs and so forth, go over there and investigate, and I told them not to. Got no business going over there. You in turn turned that information over to Paul. And so now Paul, when I talked to you about it, you said you had something going on as far as demolishing that building. It is essential that that building get destroyed or get blocked off permanently with steel doors or something so that these kids cannot go in there during lunch or after school or before school. The high school had a lot of problems in the last couple of years. As some of you might know or might not know, there was a shooting over there, there was a knifing over there, you know, and as some of you already know, I'm also working with the Merced High School District to get that high school close campus. That one in Livingston. So I would really like, this would be the ideal time to do something with that building before all these new students come in from the grade schools. Because they're going to come in there with the idea that they can do this by virtue of what's happened here already in the past. You got to put an end to this, because if you don't, there's going to be more trouble at Atwater High School as there has been, you know, from time to time. Now, I hope that you do something about it, Paul, because I think you're the one that told me that, you know what, we got some kind of a plan to demolish that building. I hope you get it done. The other thing I'm going to bring up now is what interim chief mentioned, having to do with being nice to officers. I think up until the removal of Chief Joseph, officers were always treated nicely. The problem is their own union president and other officers started bad-mouthing the chief of police that was removed, San Joseph. And to the citizens that are out here, we've had one after another come up here and asked, why was he removed? And the only thing that you get is negative, you know, responses. And the communication in language continues. Bad-mouthing a chief of police that cannot be here to defend himself. That's okay, I guess, to some of you. It isn't to me. So when I speak, as I said last week, about some of these officers as to what they've done wrong, it doesn't mean that you have to immediately go out there and fire them. But this thing with the Atwater PD here goes back to 2011 when I was working at Pasadores and I was getting complaints from the personnel here. And there was different leadership at that time. Petro was involved. Petro, all the time that Mr. Petro's been involved, there's been issues here with the citizens of Atwater. And I've said it before and time and again. The speeding of patrol cars up and down these surface streets in this city is unexcusable. And yes, I said Echeverria is the one that ran over a pedestrian. And as I said it, you know what? There's no excuse, even if you weren't charged. Even if you weren't charged. All right? You don't have that latitude to run over people, but coming to another thing, you know, is this whole thing that these personnel, they don't want to show up here. Well, if they don't want to show up, I guess they don't want to show up, you know.
Time has expired.
That's good enough for me. Thank you.
Excuse me. Lori Johnson, 1675 Drakely. I am here tonight because I am very worried about the future of this city and its residents. Many of you think the future of this city is secure, that your freedoms and rights will not be taken away, but to think that is a big mistake. If we as a community let the city officials keep our water from us and refuse our payments, we are letting them gain more control over what watering days you guys have and other unnecessary control. I never thought that what they have done to us was even possible. I thought that if the people knew, they would want to protect their city from the criminals running it. Do you want your city to be known for its police corruption and dirty city politics? Do we want business owners bashing their own client online and in public forum without provocation, knowing they are breaking the law because they signed a HIPAA with those said clients? Do we want residents like Dan Hernandez that never checks for facts in his fictional speeches, having something to say about everything, knowing nothing about anything? I see he is very close with that so-called reporter who always has something positive to say about him and always negative about us, whom she has never asked any questions. She is a part of a big problem, fake news media. How can you trust the city officials that control the media, and how can you trust the media? Oh, wait, you can't. We are an American military family being denied access to running water in America. Our lives are at risk. This is not a game, so don't play with our lives. It's time to put a stop to your reign of torture. Why does the city have our neighbors' outside faucets off? Outside only. And it's because they don't want us to have any possible way to flush, because we might get a bucket of water. They don't want us to be able to water our animals. Or remember a few years ago, drinking standing water caused me a bacteria and I was hospitalized. And there's a public works guy who is a public employee, won't give us his name, that's out there on Saturdays and Fridays and reading the meter. Okay, but I have this to read. It's the right to water is a vital part of our everyday life, so much so that on July 28, 2010, the United States General Assembly, by Resolution 62-292 explicitly, recognized the human right to water and sanitation as an integral component of the realization of all human rights. California, following the United Nations, led the going a step further by recognizing that water needs to be affordable, has adopted a codified a state policy declaring that every human being has the right to safe, clean, affordable, and accessible water adequate for human consumption, cooking, and sanitary purposes. Governor Brown, in support of these policies, expanded the existing requirements for safe, clean water by including requirements for affordable water through codification of Assembly Bill number 4013, which tasked the State Water Resources Control Board in conjunction with other agencies to develop a plan for funding and implementation of low-income water rate assistance program to help ensure all California residents who have access to water. These policies and regulations recognize every human's need for safe, affordable water. The city's housing element shows that 26% of residents fall below the poverty line, which ranks among the highest poverty level in the United States. City of Atwater housing element assistance for meeting energy utility needs is provided to low-income residents for electric and gas utilities, but there is no program for low-income residents to meet their water, sewer, and garbage requirements housing. Even with these ongoing concerns, plaintiffs attempted to, we paid our bills. We've attempted to pay our bill. This isn't about our income. This is about refusing our payments and still refusing our right to the access of running water. It is 104, 105 degrees outside. They intentionally cut the pipes, the outside pipes off of our neighbors' homes. So even if we want to go get a bucket of water to flush, we can't. So we have to drive to the windmill and pay $1.75 to flush the toilet. And that is...
Time has expired.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to make public comment?
Our next item.
Folks, you know, there's...
Excuse me.
Okay, I'm only going to allow a couple of three comments from the chief and the attorney. We're not going to get into a big comment section here. We have notes the city staff can address, the lawyer can address. Most of those I prefer be written and presented to the community on the back table at the next agenda to answer your questions. That way, everybody has the answer, same answers in the written questions. But I'll let the chief go and answer a couple of questions briefly, please.
Yes, thank you. In regards to Mr. Lee's comments about Kelso Determine, I met with the fire marshal, the community services director last Monday. We're putting together a code enforcement plan. We're going to target that area. We know that it's the worst area of town in regards to crime and other things like that and blight, and we're actively going to be going after that, just so you know. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Attorney.
Yes, as it relates to the Chief Joseph investigation, while we can acknowledge its existence, state law and federal law prohibit from us from discussing it in detail. I know how frustrating that can be, but it is the law and it's the way that it's written, and so this process has to go through its natural course. As it relates to Mr. Pulaski, if you don't mind, I'll talk to you about your questions at the end of the evening. I do want to tell you that the reason that marijuana ordinances were drafted for all of our clients is because the state law changed. Marijuana became both at a recreational and medical level available, and so that necessitated laws to be able to deal with that. I can assure you, though, that any marijuana business or ordinance that's gone into effect is paid through a cost recovery manner, just like the developer, meaning that it's at no cost to the city. The developers, or in this case, those businesses, pay for those costs.
Thank you. As I said, folks, we do have the notes.
I want to make a comment.
Just a minute. We do have notes. I'm not going to get into this whole conversation here. Save your comment for the end, if you would, please.
I want to, it refers to the public comment, so I want to make a comment on that.
Refer it to the public comment.
Right now, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
The comment about Secretary Determined, since I've been on the council, every one of us on the council has been working actively to try to do something over there. With the new chief, we went out, we met out there. That is a serious problem in this community. We have limited resources, but the creativity and the knowledge that the chief's presenting, we're going to be able to bring in the building official, the fire department, the health department, get these absentee landlord owners that are out there, and finally do something to be aggressive about it. So what you're saying, we're already in motion of that, and we agree with you on that it is a public health and safety issue for our community over there. And then also with the general tension in the room during public comment, I appreciate everybody's comments. I think it's great that you guys are all out and participating in this, but as Jim was saying, the civility, there's a little bit more professional way we can do this and express ourselves, not getting so upset, and we could articulate ourselves a little bit finer, would probably benefit both sides in the situations. And we can't comment on public personnel issues. We just can't, and that's a fact. We want to, we can't. And then thirdly, a lot of the people made comments about, we want everything done now. We want Atwater Boulevard cleaned up. We want the parks fixed perfect, everything else. We do too. We're trying. You guys started off with saying that we're broke, we're going to go bankrupt. Then in the next sentence, you guys want us to fix everything overnight, and it's all our fault. And somebody made a comment that it has been ongoing, but we're trying to do it. And we're listening to everybody. There's no A team or B team that any of us up here listen to. We sit, we try to figure this out. So,
Councilman, finish up, please.
It's important that you guys understand that we may sit here and be mute, because that's what the law dictates. We can't go back and forth. And trust me, I want to say a lot of things a lot of times, but just a more civil, and we do understand that you guys want a lot of things done yesterday, but we only have so much money, and we're trying to fix that too. Thank you.
Thank you. Consent calendar.
Next item. Isn't everybody happy? We've moved to our next item. Consent calendar. Notice to the public. Background information has been provided on all matters listed under the consent calendar, and these items are considered to be routine. All items under the consent calendar are normally approved by one motion. If discussion is requested on any item, that item will be removed from the consent calendar for separate action.
Is there any council member who would like to remove anything from the consent calendar? Is anyone from the public who would like to have anything pulled from the consent calendar? Mr. Raymond.
Motion to approve the consent calendar is posted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call for the question.
Creighton?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Vineyard?
Yes.
Motion passes. Funding and budget matters. Treasurer's report for the month of June 2018.
Mr. Heller.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Before you is the Treasury report for June.
Are there any questions from the council in regards to the treasurer's report? Is there anything, Mrs. Diol, you have any comments you'd like to make?
Finally, we are in black for general fund. So this is due to the year-end entries we have to post. So this credit balance does include 1.1 million interfund transfer from Major H2 general fund, along with all the admin allocations which are being charged to all the enterprise funds for the services they are getting provided by the general fund departments. For example, finance, staff time is being allocated to the enterprise funds to collect their payments and stuff. So in that manner, so the allocations are being charged to all the enterprise funds. So this does include a year-end entries. That's why the cash balance is in black.
Are there any questions from the public? Step to the podium, please.
Linda Dash, Atwater. I thought it was understood that you could not transfer Measure H funds into the general fund.
That is correct. So going forward, in current fiscal year, we are not making that transfer. That's why we are putting 7 officers under Measure H. But this is how it was budgeted in the beginning of fiscal year 17-18. So we ended the year the way we budgeted it.
Okay, you're talking about 17-18, right?
Correct.
Okay, and I did notice that there were a lot of transfers from water, sewer in the 17-18 fiscal year. Did you folks, I don't think the council adopted a resolution authorizing us to do that?
No,
Has that been done?
those transfers are only for admin charges or any IT charges like that. So those are being adopted along with the budget. They are included in the budget.
But when you are utilizing special funds from, the funds from our special accounts, putting into our general fund, should that not be done via a resolution adopted by the council, which I think we got our hands slapped by the state for not doing that before. And I think just CYA, just go ahead and, one little piece of paper, I think would save us some.
I think there is a confusion about interfund transfers. So the interfund transfer state was mentioning was from the Measure H2 general fund for the public safety funds, for the public safety services. That is being addressed in going forward in this current fiscal year 18-19. But like I said, in prior years, those monies were moved just for the public safety purposes.
But the officers that you've placed in Measure H are not new officers. They're current officers. Is that correct?
Correct. So Measure H can have.
Thank you.
No. May I finish, please? So Measure H can have officers who are hired after the measure was adopted. So they are existing officers, but they are not classic members. So they started their services after July 1st, 2013.
Councilman Raymond?
So I have a question with this $1.1 million transfer again. That would total approximately $4.4 million in transfers from Measure H to the general fund over the last 4 years, wouldn't it?
Correct.
So with that, especially with the city getting our hands slapped, are these monies that we're going to have to pay back out of the general fund to Measure H for the inappropriate use of it?
No, we are not going forced or anything like that. It's just state was not completely compliance with our methodology. They were thinking that when you transfer money to general fund, it can be used for other purposes too. To eliminate that confusion, we stopped that transfer and put the officers under Measure H.
Okay. Yeah, I know for a lot of years I've been ridiculed for voting no on the budgets, but this is one of the main reasons. So I'm glad to see going forward, we're going to stop doing this. However, I would like to get to, like what Mrs. Dash was saying, is get to where we can actually put new officers in Measure H as it was intended. So, thank you.
You're welcome.
City Manager Waterman?
I just wanted to clarify to Councilmember Raymond that it's not, the state didn't say we're doing it, there weren't items that were not appropriately budgeted for Measure H. It's just they wanted cleaner transparency by having it listed separately instead of making the transfer at the end.
Any other questions in regards to the Treasurer's report? Motion to approve. Mr. Raymond?
Was that a motion, or are you asking?
I'm asking for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve Treasurer's report.
Second.
Call for the question.
Raymond?
Yes.
Creighton?
Yes.
Vineyard?
Yes.
Motion passes. Public hearings. Confirming the engineer's reports and ordering the annual levy for the lighting and drainage and landscape assessment maintenance districts for fiscal year 2018-2019.
Good evening. Mickey Ashley, Wildan Financial, 27368 Via Industrial in Temecula. Good evening, Honorable Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council. City Council has previously approved the formation of the city's maintenance assessment districts along with the methodology of applying the assessments of the properties within each district. There are a total of 50 assessment districts consisting of residential and/or commercial properties. The levy and collection of these assessments is to provide for the ongoing care, operations, and maintenance of storm drainage facilities, street lighting, and/or landscaping through annual assessments paid by the property owners who directly benefit from the specific services provided. Staff has worked with Wildan Financial to assist in the preparation of the engineer's reports being presented tonight. The details and costs and rates for the fiscal year 2018-19 for each district are included in the engineer's reports. On June 25th, Council adopted resolutions initiating the proceedings, declaring intent to levy, preliminarily approving the engineer's reports, and setting the date and time of the public hearing. This is the public hearing. This action requests that the council open the public hearing to receive testimony. There is one resolution before the council this evening to approve the levy and collection of the assessments for the city's maintenance assessment districts. Upon conclusion of the public hearing, we recommend that council adopt the resolution approving the engineer's reports and setting the annual levy of assessments for fiscal year 2018-2019. I would be happy to answer any questions the city council may have.
Does council have any questions? Not this time. We'll open up the public hearing for any questions from the citizens. Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council.
Motion to approve.
Actually, I do have one question before we go forth with the motion. In your analysis, the comparison chart, you say there's no proposed levy increases. Is that correct? On either the lighting district or the maintenance districts, is that correct?
There's no rate increases. There was an add-on to one of the districts, so there was an additional assessment added on for that, for those additional parcels.
And which one was that?
Juniper,
Juniper Meadows?
Juniper Meadows, yeah.
So in regards to that, okay, so because we've talked about this in the past, and I know we can't charge for services not done, but we have certain services we have to do, which costs the city $150,000. Correct? Or approximately $150,000?
Approximately, yes.
Okay, so, but we're not raising any fees in order to make up that deficit that we're taking out of the general fund then, is that correct?
So last fiscal year, the fees were not adopted by the city council, so that's why we did not collect anything.
Okay, so that, this remedies that. Is that?
Correct.
Okay, that's what's causing me the confusion. Okay, thank you very much.
Motion on the floor.
We have a motion to approve. There's a second. Yes, we did. Yeah, nobody came forward on the public hearing. Yes, ma'am. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Call for the question.
Raymond?
Yes.
Creighton?
Yes.
Vineyard?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Interim City Manager reports and updates. Our verbal update regarding fiscal solvency efforts.
So as we've all been discussing, the Legislative Audit Committee has requested some items from staff with a timeline of July 12th. We met that timeline and submitted through a collaborative efforts of the City Council, staff, and consultants, which included RGS. We met that required timeline, and we're also able to provide them with additional follow-up questions that they had. As part of the transparent process going forward, the City Council will be asked in the future to adopt a set of policies to ensure long-term compliance with management practices in all departments, and some of them are as followed. So this would be, we may all agree to what we're doing now, but at some point down the road, the council may be new council, and staff may be new staff, so this is going to ensure and make the audit committee comfortable that we're going to continue with the policies that we're outlining. Samples of the policy would be establishing a commitment to contribute a minimum of $100,000 each fiscal year to the general fund reserve, a policy establishing a target of 10% general fund reserve, a policy establishing financial set-asides to meet unfunded liabilities for PERS and OPEB as outlined in our 2018 and 19 fiscal budget, a resolution supporting state law preventing future enterprise fund transfers to or from the general fund other than for payment, policy to ensure adequate cost recovery for specific services and tracking costs by specific projects, policy to review and update the master fee schedule on a regular basis to capture any charges in a cost of delivery of services, and a policy establishing ongoing and annual training for staff to ensure that compliance with these policies are adhered to. In an effort to increase open government transparency, a social media policy will be presented to the City Council for adoption. This policy will open the door for extensive and cost-effective engagement of the public utilizing approved social channels. The city will also hold an open house to present an overview of all the actions and policies that will allow the public to answer questions and make suggestions at that time. We're looking at a possible Saturday maybe to make it convenient for the public. We have a tentative timeline for departmental reviews that are specified for the audit committee. And again, on August 8th, we will make the same trip to the state capitol to meet before the Joint Legislative Audit Committee. We believe that the city deserves an opportunity to fully implement its fiscal solvency plan and proceed as a monitored agency rather than as a candidate for a high-risk audit. Anybody have any questions?
Do you have any questions? No questions? All right, we'll move on to the next item.
City Council matters. Discussion regarding proposed draft argument in favor of ballot measure relating to a business license tax on cannabis businesses.
I'll call you in a minute, okay? Let me just, Councilman Raymond and I were set to do this. I brought this forth to the council, the whole council, or actually we did. I put it on here because Councilman Raymond and I were having a difficulty communicating because of our busy schedules and some other things that were going on. But I knew we needed to get it on the docket because we felt that the whole council needed to look at this. We've had in the past where we've had subcommittees dictate what was going on to the council, and that's not the way it's supposed to be. We've got subcommittees work for the council, and we felt we needed to bring these options to the council as a whole, let them see what's going on. So there's clarity and above board what's happening, transparency is everybody, the key word is everyone's talking to. So we came up with these 3 options with the help of Ms. Rasmussen, some input from her because of her knowledge and background and stuff. So we brought these forth. Now I'll call on Councilman Raymond.
Oh, wait.
You have an amendment to one of the options, do you not, sir?
I didn't know if you wanted to.
No, let's
talk about them.
let's go ahead and talk about them because.
So of the 3 options, I liked option 3, but the only difference I'd make is on number 2, where it mentions it's just a tax on business, that it's strictly for the operator, the business, and the user. So nobody, if you're not smoking weed, you're not going to get taxed.
Okay. So can you read the whole sentence to us for your change on that, if you could?
Just to ensure that it's a business and user-only tax.
It's great. Do you have any comments or anything on any of the options?
No, I like what Ray was saying, but not just general business, but specify cannabis
Yeah, cannabis business.
and associated businesses with that. That way there's no loophole there.
Okay.
It says it in the option.
Good job.
I do have a question for legal. Now, this tax measure is only if a development agreement's not reached?
Correct. So this tax is a backstop. It only applies in the event that somebody does business in a way that would be inconsistent with our code, which is without a development agreement. So as an example, when the state came in and was going to allow a statewide license to allow marijuana deliveries, both recreational and medicinal, then this tax would potentially apply to them, and you would be able to go up to 15%. So it's essentially one way of having local control. It also acts as a backstop if anyone was to ever challenge any of the development agreements, and the development agreements, for whatever reason, were deemed to be invalid, then it would be backstopped, and the tax would apply for the period that would have otherwise been covered.
Okay. I just want to confirm on the record that it will not be a double taxation issue.
Just so that people have a chance to have their input, there were copies made of option 3. 1 and 2 were in the packet. If anyone has any input, we'd gladly take that, if you've had a chance to look at it. We're open for comments.
Good evening, Mark Yandow, 6162 Mulberry Avenue. I'll be one of your applicants for cannabis licenses. I have not seen the ordinance, I just saw it was on the agenda, so I did not get a copy of it, but my input to you is this. I'm not sure if you're going to split out between medical and recreational in the sales tax. If you do, please provide what you're going to use, if we're going to use the state license, or we're going to use the little dial of 420 doctor. I'm guessing it's the state piece. Second thing I would ask you to include on there, even though you don't allow it currently, is some type of tax for on-site consumption, because you will be requested to do that. If you're going to do a tax ballot, you might as well do it now, so we don't have to come back and pay that extra money. And on on-site consumption, consider either doing it a percentage or a dollar fee, if it does approve. So, $5 a head or 15% on their bill. And again, please consider the medical versus recreational, because for any of the vets, we're going to be doing major different pricing for veterans and medical. So thank you.
Done. Is there anyone else? So
Vice Mayor, just to address that question, so this is just the argument in support of, our ordinance doesn't currently allow on-site consumption, and so we would have to come back and revisit that if anybody ever wanted to allow this. What this is just a tax essentially on transactions related to cannabis changing hands, largely in the retail sense, but it does also apply in the sense of a manufacturer or cultivator who doesn't have a direct market contact. And again, the issue of cannabis being legalized within California. It was decided by the California voters, and we don't have the ability to not allow it.
So this would be the argument that would be presented on the ballot along with the tax measure that is written.
And then the city attorney also has an impartial analysis section that, right.
So would you like, in order to make it formalized, do we need a motion to go forth with this? Then I'll make the motion to go with option 3 of the argument for the measure, for their measurement, whatever letter they put on it.
And is that as
amended
by Councilmember Raymond?
By Councilmember Raymond. And Creighton.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Creighton?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Vineyard?
Yes.
Motion passes. City council comments.
Councilman Creighton, we'll go with you first.
I just want to say, Chief, I'm going to get you. Thanks for what you're doing. You're making a difference out there. The few people I talked to over at Secretary Determined, Kelso area, they have seen a little more presence, and they're not just getting lip service, so that's a big deal. Thank you very much on that. That's all I want to say.
Councilman Raymond.
I just want to send my condolences out to the fire families. Thank you guys for all your hard work, and our prayers are with you.
I mentioned earlier about the fire on Fruitland. I want to commend Atwater City Fire, Merced County Fire, and the volunteers. We called in Atwater County Fire and volunteers. We called in Merced City Fire for assistance, which has been a long time we've ever done that. The Atwater Police Department was incredible. We were doing a shift change, and Sergeant Noveski was spectacular, Chief, in his management and his command. The Atwater volunteers, I appreciate everything they did, coming out in a moment's notice when I called them. The people of citizens of Atwater, you know, they were a lot of looky-loos. People wanted to drive things. We made them park, they walked. But what was incredible was people would pull up to me and they'd go, "Can we drive up there?" I go, "No." "Well, my son jumped out and went and helped the firefighters." Was he a firefighter? No. The firefighters needed help. He simply jumped out and went. Other people are pulling up, and I have a case of water for the firefighters and police. You can go up there and park, but don't go any further. It was tremendous, the outreach of the citizens towards the firefighters and the police. It could have been extremely more devastating than it was, but the community came together, and I think it was spectacular. To both chiefs, both departments did an outstanding job. Mr. Peretta, thank you for coming out, taking care of that gentleman that lost his home. Watching his eyes, he was devastated as anybody would be, but you handled him greatly and helped him out. I've got a few phone calls. Mr. City Manager, can we post the district maps in all our offices along with who is associated with those district maps? People have called in and not got answers and then got put to voicemails to nowhere. They want to know who their city council member is. Some people don't know because they're not sure exactly what their district is, and they would like to know. So if we could post those maps in all the offices with who's currently in there, and then when we know who's going to be running where, that might be pertinent to the people that are living here.
I think it's on the website.
And that would be great if we could put that on the website. Because
What about the utility bill? Toss it in there.
and maybe even in the utility, that'd be great. Because they're frustrated. They're trying to find out. And a few I've talked to can we only talk to them? And I said, no, absolutely not. You can talk to any council member that you want. And I said, because I referenced the fact that I was out of town for a week, and if I'm not here, any of the other council members would be gladly to help them with their problems. So, or try to find an answer for them. So that's what we do. Lastly, I'd like to close this meeting in honor of HFEO, Heavy Fire Equipment Operator Brandon Varney. I went to his funeral today. I went to school with his dad. grew up with his dad, so I got to learn about his son. His son started operating a little homemade bulldozer that his dad made when he was 4 years old, so it was in his blood. There was probably about 5,000 people at this funeral. Firefighters from all over the place, law enforcement from all over the place. It's a pretty incredible funeral. Lasted about 2 hours. If you've never heard the bagpipes play Amazing Grace, you've never heard it played correctly. Young gentleman is a hero. I don't care. He gave his life protecting his community, just like any of these police officers or firefighters here would do. It took him 3 days to recover his body because of the canyon he was in, and because every time they tried to get in and get him, the fire ran him out. The story was tremendous. He was 36 years old, a father of a little boy and a little girl. Followed in his father's footsteps. His father died about 6 years ago. They're both heavy equipment operators for the California Department of Forestry. So on behalf of Braden Varney and his family, I'd like to close this meeting. Thank you very much.